Our next session will be hosted by Josh Schifter, who is a senior manager for software development here at Bentley. In this session, Josh is going to be demonstrating a variety of ways that you can enhance your front-end applications to improve viewing and interaction with your digital twin. So over to you, Josh.
Okay, I think I can hide that thing. And welcome everybody to my session on where we're going to be learning about some key features for iModel.js interactive apps. These are so that you can create your own compelling user experiences for your users. I'm really excited to be showing this, or the context of this presentation is this program called the iModel Sample Showcase. This has been a project of mine for a while now, and it's finally ready for everybody to use. So in a moment, I'll show you how to get to it. But first, I want to just answer the question. A moment ago, I said compelling user experience. Well, what is a compelling user experience? And this is an example. This is called the Heatmap sample. There's an iModel here with a geolocated map, and you can, I'm visualizing some points in a heat map kind of scenario. It's very smooth and interactive. These points are random. They're not, this is not real, but you could imagine it coming in, and believe it or not, or maybe it's easy to believe, I don't know. This is actually the first iModel.js program that I personally wrote, this heat map visualization. And yeah, anyway, it's in our samples and the source code is available to you should you like to do something similar. Okay, with that, I'm going to do a quick overview of, so where do you start? Forgot that part. Where do you start? With everything iModel.js, you start on iModel.js.org. I'll close out that one. Ooh, what happened? Give my web browser a moment to wake up. There we go. Okay. So iModel.js.org is your place to start. Samples is here available for you. You click it, and that will open up the showcase that I was just showing you. Showcase has a bunch of features to it. The source code for a particular sample shows up on the left. I'm going to close that out for now just so we can focus on the samples, but we'll be back to that. On the right is the sample gallery, where we show you all the samples that are currently available. Of course, this is a web app that's being constantly refreshed. Check back. I think we expect to add these at a pretty decent clip, add new samples. But there's a bunch here. I think there's about 40 or so that are ready to go right now. Okay, first sample you start out with is the simplest sample of all. It's just the straight up 3D viewer without anything exciting. It's sort of similar to that basic Viewport app that Roop showed a moment ago. This iModel is our metro station sample iModel. Again, this data is this particular iModel is available to you through our Getting Started portal. You can download it. You can make a copy of it. You can use it in any way you like. Okay, so I just want to quickly show that this 3D sample here has the ability to open multiple iModels. It's not tied to one. So we have a few here currently, more to come, of course. We got buildings, plants, a simple house, and that metro station I showed you a moment ago. Here's everybody's favorite tiny little plant model that we like to use. Okay, so that's basic 3D viewing. Next is 2D viewing. A lot of times iModels, people think we show a lot of 3D stuff, but there's 2D models get synchronized over just like the 3D. This house model has a bunch of different 2D drawings in it. It's got floor plans, it's got interior sections, and it's got exterior elevations. It also has sheets. So here's a sheet showing some sections. whatever's in your data would show up here. And of course, we only have two iModels that show up here because those other ones just don't happen to have any 2D data in them. This is that metro station, a sheet showing a section of the metro station. And one thing you can see here that maybe wasn't obvious in the 3D view is that there's a lot of stuff going on underground. You can see the train tunnels, some trains in there. We'll get another view of that in a second. Okay. Next sample is a view attribute sample. And again, the point of these things is not to demonstrate to you that we can do this. I mean, I think everybody knows that we can do it. It's that you can do it, and the source code here is all available, and it's not cooperating. You would not be surprised to hear that I tested this 5 minutes before. I wonder if my internet connection is having a problem. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's the view attribute sample. This lets you control things like the render mode. For example, I think we've been showing you smooth shaded mostly, which I think my internet quit for a moment, and it's re-downloading a bunch of things. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so there's that smooth shaded view, but again, we had that. There's different versions here. Smooth fill is kind of neat looking, and wireframe. Yeah, let's look at the smooth. One of the view attributes is the control of the background map. We can turn it off so we can start looking inside, look underneath, see what's going on there. It's still kind of hard to get into this one. You need a section. That's a teaser for later. My favorite feature, visual impact, is the map transparency. I can change the transparency of the map so that we can look down underneath and get a good view of what's going on underground. Okay, so those are kind of the intro samples. They're just kind of the most basic starters for viewing 2D and 3D and changing what you're looking at, and changing how it views. Now the next group of samples is kind of what I call, these are the real full-blown features. How did we come up with this list? Basically, Roop and I have been doing onboarding events for development teams for, I think he said about 2 years. That sounds about right. And these are the ideas for these samples came from the top requested, the most common needed features. And, we didn't want to have to reinvent it every time somebody asked us about it. So that's why we created these. This one is about, if you want to emphasize particular elements. So let's say I'll just pick a couple of these windows. I can emphasize them. This makes them, they stand out nicely, so you can find them. Maybe I want to super emphasize this one for some reason. I can change its color. And again, you don't have to do this interactively the way I'm doing it. You can do this by programmatic logic. I think, that's the point of this, not to put buttons to do it, although, that is valid also. I can hide things. I can revert these. I can bring them back. I can bring back the, remove the color, remove the emphasis. I can, look, I left a little hole in the drawing in the model. Let's bring back that window. So that's emphasize elements. I talked about Heatmap already, or I showed you Heatmap. I want to say that, Heatmap was, again, it was one of these onboarding events that we did. It was a team that was looking to visualize an electrical grid for a small city. And they wanted to be able to highlight. They were creating sort of an executive dashboard for highlighting data integrity issues within their electrical grid. And so they wanted to be able to do something like, point out where the problems were and give them some, emphasis for the more critical issues were red, and the smaller one, the less critical ones were green. And so that's why we created this, this sample. Marker pins is next. I'm not going to go through every one of these. So if you're feeling this is tedious, I'm almost done with the list. Wow, my internet is not doing great today. Marker pins. Are we going to get marker pins? Here they are. Okay. Marker pins are another kind of visualization for a set of points. It has this sample has the same kind of control where you can, you know, just randomly create marker pins. We also have a kind of silly stuff like, you know, putting them in a circle. Again, this is just to emphasize that, you know, in a real scenario, these markers would be created by pulling data from some data source. And I want to point out, you know, that's a key feature of digital twins is that, you know, we're not necessarily pulling data from the iModels, although you can do that to locate, you know, a very important thing happened here on this street. But it's not necessarily coming from the iModel. It can be coming from any data source available to you, you know, on the internet. So maybe a traffic, you know, traffic monitoring system that's live, or any kind of some kind of analysis that was done in the past, and it's sitting. If it's available to you on the internet, you can integrate it into your application, or you can have, you know, users can be creating these markers themselves. So here's a I'll just put it on the corner here, so you don't have to watch me fumble with snapping. I can create a green one and a blue one. Maybe the blue one's not cooperating right now. It's not. What I want to show you is that, oh no. What I want to show you next is that these markers are correctly set up in three dimensions, but the whole thing's decided to go kaput on me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to roll it. If it happens again, I'm going to restart. So anyway, so here's these, the automatically placed ones are up here in a high up plane, but the ones that I snapped were snapped specifically in 3D. Okay, like I said, I'm running out of, I don't want to show every single one of these, but I can't skip the shadow study because this is the one that my kids like the best. They big dad for this one. So this one is, you know, the iModel is, like we were saying, it's, you know, it's located physically on the world. We know where it is. We know what time of day it is. It's where I'm sitting and where this model is in Philadelphia. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and we can see, you know, what does the light look like in the morning when the sun came up, the shadow was over there, and so on. And you can do different times of the year, different times of the day, and see what it looks like. And again, the point here is that this code is very simple and available to you. I'm going to skip a couple. I did tease clipping, so let's just show clipping. For example, let's show it in the metro station, because that's probably now the metro station model itself is very large, and it defaults to it's very, I should say, it's very long and not very tall. So it defaults to this very large box, but I can pull it in, and we can come in here, and you can see what's going on inside the model. I don't have a way to easily turn off the map so you can see those trains in there, but they're in there. This also shows off very well in the in here. Let's turn on X clipping. Let's flip it so we can just click by one plane, or this is clipping by 6 planes at the same time. The planes don't have to be XYZ oriented. They just happen to be in this sample. Okay, so that's clipping. So let's skip a few. Next up is, I'm not going to go into these in a lot of detail, but there's a series of UI components here. So buttons and checkboxes, input fields. These are active things. You can interact with them. You know, every loading icon you could possibly want, sliders and progress indicators, and they're available here, so you can just drop them right into your sample, into your application. Okay, tabs, text, tiles, toggles, every different shape of toggle you might want, and then next up is trees, and there's a trees are probably the most, in my mind anyway, maybe not for everybody, but they're the most complicated of the UI elements. There's not only are they complicated to create, to implement, but there's so many different options of different ways that you want to organize or present your hierarchical data. So here's the most basic tree sample. This one's got some hard-coded nodes in it. Here's one that's actually pulled data from an iModel. This data came out of the Metro Station iModel. You can see the plaza. I mean, there's a lot of data in this iModel. There's many elements. The roof, I mean, the plaza is the easiest one, and this goes down to the individual elements, right? That's that one. This one's showing a combination of those. The in-memory tree, the hard-coded ones, together with the ones pulled out of the iModel. This is a whole very different looking presentation where with the tree and with columns, customizing what an icon might look like. And last up is this one that shows a combination. It highlights a concept we call unified selection, where I can select things in the tree, and then the corresponding elements are selected in the view. So, here's the a selection of the elements in the for the roof or for the rail. Of course, it's underground. I meant to click the plaza, which is down in here. And again, it goes to individual elements, and it does work in both directions. So you can select elements down here, and they're highlighted up in the tree. Okay, so that's my kind of guided tour through all the samples that exist. I'm going to jump all the way back up to the top and start showing you how to use the code here. So we'll open up. Let's jump to that 3D one. This is the purpose of these samples, is to understand how you can duplicate them yourself. So here is the simplest one, just to get us started, get us oriented. There's two source files. There's the app source file and the UI source file. The app is, this app is trivial. Basically, it just has one setup method that's basically telling the showcase framework, the overall app. It's saying, this is the UI I want you to show in this box. Okay, so what's the definition of this UI? It's called Viewport Only UI. It's over here in a file called Viewport Only UI. It's a pretty simple React component that combines together, it's a kind of a composite component that combines together a few things. If you're not familiar with React, it's a really flexible HTML UI framework that can be used to create, very interactive applications. All these features you saw here, they're all React user interface on top of an HTML canvas. So here is a component that we wrote to host the viewport. It's not the standard viewport. It's a little different for the purposes of the showcase here. It's got this reloadable feature where basically I can give it the name of an iModel and it'll refresh. So if when somebody changes what iModel they're to look at, this component refreshes and shows you that other iModel in the view. What else does this have? It has this little box, this div, which is this box down here at the bottom right, which basically has the instructions. Use the toolbar at the top right. There's the instructions. And it has that selector, so we can change iModels. The list of iModels is baked into the showcase, and it's actually can be customized for each sample. But anyway, that's not so important for, when you're choosing an iModel in your application, you're going to use one of the mechanisms that Roop showed earlier. Either the user selects the iModel or the identity of the iModel is configured into the app, either one. Anyway, so that's the simplest 2D, similar kind of thing. The app, I want to show this one because it shows an app that's the app section is a little more interesting. There's that setup again, but there's two kind of more, and now we have two actual methods in here. We have get 2D models. This makes a list. This queries the iModel here, and then it loops over the models that it got back, and it basically says, okay, push the sheets into one list, push the drawings into another list, and return them back. And of course, the UI is going to use that to populate this list here that has the drawings at the top and the bottom. And then change viewport view. That's the control. Sorry, that's the application that tells this viewport control that underlying it has that HTML canvas. You're telling the viewport control, I want to look at a different model. Now, remember, when I say model, I mean drawing sheets, which is distinct from iModel, which is a larger container that can have many models within it. So what does this thing do? It basically calls view creator, and it says, make me a view, and then it tells the viewport to change your view. Viewport change view, that's a basic, built-in function that's inside the iModel.js packages that you download that are available. Get view for a model right now, it's living in this file over here. Now, at some point, we think this is going to move into iModel.js proper, but for now, I kind of like that it's in here because it lets me do a nice little demo, which is to just show you that this code is not just static for you to read, but you can also edit it live in here. So what are we doing here? There's that get view for model we just saw a moment ago. It's saying I want to create the view state. Here's that create view state. There's some commonality to this stuff in this create view state props, which is down here where we set up all kinds of stuff like the aspect ratio of the view, which models are being displayed. Of course, it's one model. It's this drawing model. Which categories, the camera data, like the origin and the angle, the focal length, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, there's a whole lot of features that go into setting up a view. But one of the things is that we can independently control the background color for drawings and sheets. And maybe I don't like the white background. I can change it to blue. Click the run button. Now I get a nice blue background. And just to show you that I'm not fooling around, I can call any API that's in iModel.js. There's a from string method on this color depth class. From string, I happen to know that it has one of my favorite colors, which is cornflower blue. Hopefully I spelled that correctly. Now when I hit play, we'll rerun the app with that edited code, and now we get the nice blue background color. This is, obviously this is pretty common nowadays for web development experience to have this this thing we call a code playground. I think it's really exciting that we have this for iModel.js because you can do all kinds of experiments in here and try things out really quick and then cut and paste and put the code into your app. Okay. I think that probably pretty much covers what I wanted to show for in here. Oh, sorry. So I tried to change to a different sample, and it's warning me. It's saying, you made changes in here. You're going to lose them. Yeah, I don't need to save that change. this is an example of a more sophisticated more sophisticated sample. There's a lot more code in here, but let's say I want to move some code into my application. So that's the next kind of thing that you'll want to do. So I have here a sample application. I call it, it's the Jumpstart demo. That's a very original name. I have it running over here. What it is it's a copy of the desktop starter. You see it over here. It's running that roadway iModel that Roop showed you earlier. But you notice something weird over here. It's got there's kind of gaps in the road where we can't see it, and kind of the iModel looks kind of strange that way. And the reason is because it's a new roadway that hasn't been constructed yet, so the terrain that it interacts with the terrain in a way that there's going to be a construction project when this is built to remove to remove some of the earth, to build up some of the earth. You see this green section. Also, there are tunnels here that are where the roadway goes straight under this ridge here, and it's easier to see when I rotate where the ridges are. So the road goes straight underneath. So anyway, remember I showed you that feature a little while back where we could look underground. So, well, I want to add that feature to my app. So I got a little head start on it. I added, this is not exactly the desktop starter. I added this button here, which has a slider to control the transparency, but it doesn't do anything yet, and we want to make it do something. So maybe I'll just show you it does one thing. It prints out numbers into the console here. So as I change the value, it changes down here. So how does it do that? Well, first of all, it has the same sort of thing, React components. You can mix and match them together. This little panel, it's right here. It's this div box with a hard-coded size and a label that says transparency and a slider. How did I know how to make the slider? Well, it's not going to surprise you. I used my favorite tool, the showcase. Came down here, found sliders. I picked the one with the tick marks here. That was the one I wanted. I came down here, I saw a slider with tick marks, and I cut and pasted this line of code. Dropped it into my app here. I had to customize it a little bit. For example, that slider goes from 0 to 100, but mine's going to go from 0 to 1. I gave it a default value of 0.5, a step of 1/100th, and I told it I want 10 tick marks. I had to implement a function to handle updates. The function right now, all it does is log to the console, which we saw. Okay, so now I wanted to control the transparency. What do? I go back to the samples, of course. I know that changing that as a view attribute, it's this map transparency. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to just hit Control F and look for transparency in here. And I'm going to find the function. Oops, I spelled it wrong. There we go. I'm going to find the functions that control transparency. So there's a get background, set background, right? So I'm going to grab those. I'm going to put them into my app. Okay. Right now, these are static methods. I don't want them to be static methods. I want to be able to call them from my. Now I got an underline. I got an underline here. It's telling me there's a. It can't find Viewport. It's offering to do a quick fix. I'm going to say, yeah, I need to import that from the front end package. Automatically adds an import statement. Now, if this looks similar, if you're familiar with Visual Studio Code and this looks familiar to you, it is Visual Studio Code. That's a really cool thing. Visual Studio Code was written in React. So we can use packages from Microsoft, who develops Visual Studio Code, and mash them together into our iModel.js app. Remember, this well, I'm sorry, I was showing you that in Visual Studio Code, but you can do the same. But you can do the same thing in example. We can make together, as you see, we mash together the same viewport here. It has all the same features. It does the same things as you're editing. But let's come back to the change we were trying to make. So we have those two methods. We need to call them. We're going to call them, just to simplify things, we're going to call them right in our render mode. And what do we need? We need a viewport. Well, so here I'm going to create a variable viewport, and I'm going to give you a little secret that I know that you will learn quickly. There's a class called iModel.js, which has a lot of static methods in it. I will call a method on the view manager, and I will ask it for the selected view. Now this application has only one view, so this is pretty easy, but in general, applications can have multiple views. So you want to do this, and then I don't know that, I happen to know that view is going to be there, but if the application was in the process of being started up, or if it was using a different stage that didn't have views, it might not have one. So I have to make TypeScript happy and tell it, yeah, if there is no viewport, let's just not do anything. Okay. What's the next thing we need? Well, we need that transparency. So let's make a variable for the transparency. What is that going to be equal to? This dot, well, it's that method we just created, right? Get, there it is, get background transparency. Of course, it needs that viewport that we just got. Okay, and well, same thing with the transparency. If there's no map, then the viewport won't have a transparency. So we're just going to say, if there's no transparency, let's just return it. We probably would do something different. We'd probably want to show maybe a notification here to the user saying, you got to turn on the map first. But we're going to save time during the live thing here. Okay, so now we know we know the current transparency, and what we're going to do then is we're going to put that here. So start this right now. If I run this right now, I'm just going to save my code. Okay, so what happens? It compiles, the starter app reruns. I don't have to wait. That to me, that's a great experience. I click here, and what happens? The transparency is 0.5, but we know that it's not really 0.5, and that's because, see, it's hard-coded here. So we're going to change this one. We're going to say, let's just initialize to this local variable, this transparency that we just got. I'm going to save my code, app reruns, reopens the iModel, and now I'm going to say, I'm going to do this again. Perfect. The control defaulted to no transparency. But of course, it's still not doing anything. Okay, next. On update, what do we want to do? We want to change the transparency. So we're going to call that set method that we took from the sample. Set transparency, what do we need? We need a viewport, and we need a transparency. Now, remember, Josh, I keep doing this when I'm practicing. That's not the transparency. That's just the value that's showing up in the slider. The transparency is the set method. It comes from the set method. Set it to on the viewport with the value. What value? The value coming from the control. So that's values. Now you might ask, wait, why are there two values? Or why can there be multiple values? And the reason why there can be multiple values is because, let me just get my parentheses in the right place while I blew it. Let's see if this thing can help me out. Type void is not assignable to parameter of type number. I do wrong. It's a number. Anybody who's paying attention and sees what I did wrong, let me know. This is what happens when you code live, everyone. Let me try that again and see if I can get it right this time. transparency, the viewport, and the value is going to be the fast in values 0. Somebody sees something different that I just did. I don't see it. Anyway, there's the value. I'm going to save it. Oh, I forgot to answer. Why is it an array? The reason why it's an array is because there are sliders that support multiple values like this one here. So this slider would have 2 values. Ours only has 1, so we always use the first one. Okay, I saved, reloaded, and now finally I should have the ability to control my transparency. So to summarize, the showcase is available to you. Go ahead and run it. It is on iModel.js.org. You can get to it here from samples. And, please ask questions and please let us know what more samples you would like. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised to know that I have a list. I can think of them faster than I can create them, or even then we can create them. But if there's a sample you think would be helpful, please let us know. Or, like everything that we're doing these days, this itself, the showcase itself, is open source. Here is the source code for the showcase. Under source front-end samples, you'll see that list. That's the list, including all those tree ones. They're under here. And we'd love to have submissions. If somebody, if you have an idea for a sample that you think would be useful to the community, you can create a pull request on this repository. We'll take a look at it. We'll talk to you a little bit about it, and we can bring it right in and make it available to everybody. And okay then, so that's pretty much what I had, Jason. Maybe we can answer some questions.